When I went to work one day, a problematic woman who was a junior of mine said to me, "So, I heard you had an affair. The evidence just arrived at the office." A few moments later, my boss showed me, a completely confused and discombobulated woman by this point, a photograph that seemingly spelled for my career. It was a photograph of me and a man I didn't recognize going into a love hotel. I'd never done anything of the sort, and this photograph had been forged with the intention of framing me as guilty of adulterous activity. Someone must be trying to sabotage my life. Then I was approached by someone who told me a shocking truth, and everything began to fall into place. This is the story of how a single letter sent my life spiraling into scandal and calamity, and how evidence and teamwork eventually cleared my name, and sent the real culprits to the depths of hell where they belong. My name is Polly, and I'm a 30-year-old office worker. I married my husband of the same age by the name of Caleb 3 years ago. He was the son of the president of a manufacturing company, and the company I worked for had a business relationship with the company of which Caleb was the heir to inherit after his father retired. Around that time, he was full of determination to gain the trust of those around him through his abilities and his potential. I took a liking to him because of this ambition to achieve greatness through kindness and cooperation with others. And I was lucky enough myself because he also took a liking to me. This snowballed into 22 months of dating, and we ended up getting married. Soon after tying the knot, I was rumored within my workplace to have had the best of both worlds. In particular, Roiba, a particularly problematic junior employee of mine, made it her daily routine to tell me nasty things to my face every day. I say nasty, but they were pretty convoluted. It wasn't as though she was insulting me directly to my face. Even she was smart enough to assume she could be fired because of verbal harassment. "Miss Polly, isn't your dress today a little too plain? Are you sure it's all right for the wife of the president to dress as simply as that?" "Good morning, Miss Roiba, and I am not the boss's wife." "Oh, come now, your husband, Mr. Aaron, is heir to be the next president, isn't he? Must be so nice to be able to not work knowing my lord would take good care of me." "What do you mean, my lord? Let's keep conversation about our private lives out of the workplace, Miss Roiba, all right? Do you have the materials for today's meeting? Your handouts are the only ones that haven't been submitted yet, you know." "Oh, darn it, I completely forgot about that." "You forgot about that? I reminded you yesterday and the day before, Miss Roiba. I'm afraid I'll have to remove your project from the agenda for today's meeting." "Now, wait just a minute, Polly. What will happen to my evaluation of performance then? Can't you include me in the project as planned?" "This time, it's your own fault for not meeting the deadline, which you were reminded of on multiple occasions. So I'm afraid you'll have to work harder on the next project." "Oh my god, I can't freaking believe this. I only forgot about it, Miss Polly. That's all it ever was, honest. It can't be helped. I have a bad memory. Can't you, I don't know, postpone the meeting or something? There has to be something you can do to help me out here." "You're right, it can't be helped that you have a bad memory, but consider this. Postponing the meeting will cost the company money, and we can't let your mistake cost the effort other employees put into their projects, which made it by the deadline, by the way." "You're so damn arrogant, aren't you? It looks like I'm the only one at fault here." With that, Roiba turned her back on me and left the room in a huff and a puff. I sighed. Roiba, a junior employee, 23 years of age, was simply not good at her job. Her incompetence notwithstanding, she always had a big attitude and was always regarding me, a senior employee, like I was her enemy. I guessed she was going to complain directly to my boss about being excluded from the meeting. Later on, about an hour later, I was summoned by my boss in the afternoon. "Oh, Miss Polly, you were summoned by Mr. Swalla? I wonder what you could have done wrong," Roiba said with an evil grin as I headed for Mr. Swalla's office. He is my department manager, and he was basically the highest authority for everyone working in the sales department. Lo and behold, his call was about Roiba's complaint of alleged power harassment. He said that she told him I was jealous of her abilities and was actively trying to get her to stop doing her job properly. In other words, I was accused of sabotaging an employee's work. As to be expected of a loyal employee, I was completely honest with him and told him everything about my conversation with Roiba that morning. Mr. Swalla was satisfied with my explanation and took no action to reprimand my actions. This eventually made Roiba upset that her side of the story was disregarded as nothing more than nonsense, and she kept complaining about it, making it difficult for me to do my job for the rest of the day. Why am I not surprised they frickin' believed the bitch whose husband is heir to inherit a whole company? It's not fair that I have to put up with working for some floozy who's only been an enemy from the beginning. Roiba kept screaming so that I could hear her loud and clear. Not only was I troubled by her, a parasitic employee at work, but I was also having some trouble at home with my relationship with my husband, Caleb. Hey, honey, I'm home. Sorry I'm late. I'm going to make dinner.
Working late again? I told you to call me if you were going to be late.
I'm sorry.
Just make dinner already.
Okay, just wait a little longer. I'll only be 15 minutes. I hurriedly cooked up a nice little meal and brought it to Caleb, who ate in silence for a while. Perhaps he was pretty hungry. I've always been a good cook, and when we were married, he would tell me every day how delicious my food was. However, he seemed to be getting more frustrated because he was not getting the results he was expecting with his work recently. His attitude toward me gradually became colder and colder, and he began to bite at many more things I said. I had become very concerned about Caleb's situation. At home, I made it my top priority to try to have casual conversations with him that had nothing to do with work. Hey, maybe we should talk about getting ready for the New Year's holiday soon?
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
What about the food? Did you have anything you hoped you could have?
The food, well, let's see. Last year's roast chicken with cranberry sauce is pretty good, I'll be honest.
Done. I'll order the same one for this year, too. I'll also order the printing for all the New Year's cards. How many cards do you think we'll need? That's when his face suddenly got all twisted up.
Oh, shit. Ah, God damn it. Frick. This is gonna be a hassle.
What's the matter?
Dad and Uncle Dan want me to handwrite all the New Year's cards for our clients.
That's a lot of work for such a busy man.
And you know more than most that I'm not good at writing at all. My handwriting's terrible, and what's worse, you always send thank you cards to our clients by hand. What the hell are you trying to do? Make me look stupid? Dad admires your handwriting.
Truth be told, I can write well enough to be considered a good calligrapher, so I've often written thank you notes to clients in my handwritten calligraphy. Caleb's handwriting was worse than a Russian doctor's, but since most of our correspondence is printed on a computer or sent by email, no one had any particular problem with his handwriting. However, his father, Mr. Aaron, who was the president at that point, called him out for his messy handwriting and compared him to mine, his wife. It must have been pretty hard to swallow for Caleb. After listening to his sarcasm for a while, I fell asleep, exhausted. If I had to go on like this every day, I would have been so stressed out that I would have had a hard time coping with it all. But then an incident at work emerged, and that pushed me over the edge. The day started with Roiba's sarcastic attacks on me, as usual. Miss Polly, what are you planning to get as a Christmas present from Mr. Aaron? I don't know yet. So, you don't have any plans to receive anything? You know, with how you talk about him, I sometimes wonder if Mr. Aaron really loves you. Now, Roiba, we mustn't talk like that at work. You ought to know your place. Oh, I've hit the bullseye for sure. Poor Miss Polly, Aaron. And Mikiko went on further, grinning ominously. What she uttered next left me frozen where I stood. So, I heard you had an affair. The evidence just arrived at the office. Huh? I didn't understand what Mikiko was saying for a solid moment. After a while, I was approached by the section chief, Mr. Carlton, who showed me a photograph.
This photograph was sent to the company, Miss Polly. You're a married woman, aren't you? This must be the scene of an affair, then. I pray you have a good explanation for this.
The photograph showed a man and a woman entering a fancy love hotel with neon signs with a twilight sky stretching in the background. It was quite unmistakably the scene of the couple caught in adultery. The man was dressed like a gigolo, and I did not recognize him. But the woman with her arms around him donned my face.
It's a real shame that a good employee like you is having an affair like this. I can't believe this is real. You were ordered to take some time off until your punishment is decided.
I didn't recall behaving in any way that would warrant such a photograph. There must be some mistake. I don't remember behaving in this way.
But we have photographic evidence of the affair right here.
Oh no.
You ought to place yourself under a form of self-house arrest for the time being.
As I nodded my head and started getting ready to go home, I heard Roiba talking loudly. Looks like Miss Polly Aaron's been having an affair. Mr. Carlton's seen hard photographic evidence of it. How could she cheat on her husband, the heir to inherit an entire company? I left the office with all the employees looking at me with skeptical eyes. As I stepped outside, a light dusting of snow had begun to fall. The snow touched my cheeks and mixed in quite nicely with my tears. I told myself aggressively, "Don't cry, I've done nothing wrong." Then my cell phone rang. It was from my workplace. "Yes, hello? Polly Aaron speaking." "Oh, Mr. Swallow, sir. How do you do?"
I just got the report from Carlton, and I just could not believe you, of all people, would have an affair, so I had that picture carefully checked out by one of our employees who's good at imaging processing. She confirmed the photographs are forgery. She explained in detail that once you enlarge the neck of the photo, you could see an obvious seam that proved that exact spot was cut away voluntarily.
My eyes lit up immediately. Thank the sky, it was just a cruel prank. But an obvious question arose. Why would someone make a picture like that? But why? Who?
Exactly. Those are the questions I want to ask. Looks like someone has a vendetta against you. It could interfere with this important project of ours. I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to take some time off from work. This will be paid leave, of course, but I think we both know it's all for the good of the company and all those involved. I hope you understand, Miss Polly.
I was cleared of the affair, but I ended up getting paid leave from that day forward for perhaps a couple of days, weeks. There was no way they were going to grant me paid leave for more than a month. I was depressed that I was being kept away from my work, even if it was for the good of the company. But hold on. Since I have the whole day off now anyway, I can cook a big meal for Christmas and New Year's. I have the time now. By the name of my darling mother and of my grandmother before her, I'll cook a lot of extravagant dishes. I got myself together and went to the supermarket on my way home and bought a bunch of fancy foodstuffs. I was cooking like a savant when Caleb came home that day. I was expecting a smile on his face since the smell was pretty nice, at least to me. But instead, he said to me with an expression of pure fury.
So I hear you're having an affair behind my back, eh?
What are you talking about, honey? I would never do such a thing.
How dare you betray me? We're getting a divorce. Get the hell out of this house.
Now hold on, this is too one-sided. Could you listen to my side of the story?
Shut up, you lying, cheating bitch. I'll sue you for alimony.
I never cheated on you. Where's your proof?
I have proof, and these photographs are more than enough to convince me.
Caleb grinned evilly and held up to my nose the forged photograph of the affair that had arrived at my office. I gulped. How in the world did this photograph come into his possession? Where did you get this from? I knew there was nothing I could say to him now. I told myself, let's just keep our distance until we get to the bottom of this. Let's cool down and then we'll clear up the misunderstanding in due time. I started to pack my things in tears. Then Caleb said to me as if he had just remembered something important.
Oh, that's right. You should leave the food for me. Cook all the ingredients for Christmas and New Year's. It'll be a huge waste of great food if it was off or not.
Wait, what? Why would a husband want to eat a home-cooked meal prepared by his wife, whom he was convinced was cheating on him? It all seemed really strange to me, but it was true that it would be a big waste to send such a large amount of fine food to the trash bin, so I finished all the cooking that I started. I hadn't cooked like this in a very long time, but although I worked so hard, the fact I couldn't eat it left a void in my heart and in my stomach. I took a picture of the food to at least satisfy myself when I saw it later. After everything was done and cooked, Caleb said,
Wow, this looks awesome. Now you are no more use to me. If I have this much food left over, I can eat good food every day for quite a while.
I put a lot of leftovers in Ziploc containers and put it in the refrigerator before leaving the house. I decided to stay with my parents for a while. My parents were worried when they heard what had happened, but I explained that it was just until the misunderstanding was cleared up. I took a few days off, and when I came back to work, everyone at work understood that my affair had been a mistake. They talked to me with kind voices, asking me how I was and how Caleb was, and how things had been going while I was gone. But Roiba was the only one who persisted in giving me a hard time. I'm surprised you made it to work at all, Polly. That's my respectable senior colleague right there. You've got a lot of makeup on, and you seem to be completely unfazed by this, I have nothing to hide. Let's get back to work. So, adultery is nothing to be ashamed of. I don't understand your common sense, Miss Polly. Roiba, if you have time to talk, why don't you spend it productively by cleaning up the slips that are piling up? It's the end of the year and you're the only one who's behind. The frick? That's not my job. You frickin' do it, bitch! After saying that, Roiba threw her work away and stormed out of the room. I was speechless. She'd always been bad at her job, but this was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And that's saying a lot. Another one of my juniors came over to me and quietly told me, I hear Roiba is going to quit her job soon. That's why she hasn't been working at all lately, and everyone here is having a really hard time keeping up with all the work. What? Roiba's quitting? I thought she'd told you by now, Miss Polly. She's getting married. Lately, she's been showing off her lunchboxes she made herself, appealing to everyone that she's a great family-oriented woman. To be honest, I didn't expect Roiba to be such a family-oriented person. I was a little relieved to hear that an incompetent, problematic junior colleague who couldn't do her job, such as her, was going to be a full-time housewife. To be even more honest, I felt it was impossible for her to work at this company. During lunch break that day, I saw Roiba surrounded by a bunch of male employees. Everyone was praising her homemade lunchbox, which was undoubtedly well garnished and beautifully done. Otherwise, she wouldn't have attracted such a crowd. A few of the guys even took photos of the lunchbox on their phones and said they'd show it to their wives. Naturally, I became a little curious myself. I asked my junior, who was walking by, "Hey, can you show me a photo of Roiba's homemade lunchbox?"
Sure, Miss Polly. She's an amazing cook, isn't she?
He answered as he swiped his phone screen a couple times. He then tilted the screen down to a level where I could see, and when I saw it, I was so astonished I nearly fell out of my chair. The dishes in Roiba's lunchbox were the exact same dishes I had left at home. Now wait a damn minute! I involuntarily compared it with the photos of my own that I had taken a couple of days prior. Oh no, this can't be my cooking, can it?
Wait, what? So what Reba claimed she made herself for lunch turned out to be your cooking, Miss Polly? That's very strange.
I immediately felt as if all the things that had never made sense to me fell neatly into place all at once. Caleb's increasingly cold attitude, Roiba, who had always been regarding me like I was an enemy, Roiba and Caleb both knowing about the photographic evidence of my alleged affair, Roiba eating the very same food I had left at home. I never thought that I would be the one to be trapped by these people. And I vowed I would never forgive them. I vowed to make them pay and let them know never to mess with Polly Cyrus. I went back to my house, hid my shoes, and waited for Caleb to come home without turning on the lights. Very soon, I heard his car pull up in the driveway. And just as I suspected, he came home with a woman, and the voice of the woman was unmistakably Roiba's. I am so hungry. Is there any of that bitch's cooking left?
She's not attractive at all, but she's a good cook, I'll give her that. And we don't want anyone to see us eating out together, so I guess we have no choice but to eat at home.
They came into the living room, making out and turning on the lights. Welcome home, darling.
What in tarnation?
They both jumped up in alarm.
Why the fuck are you here?
What's wrong with me being in my own house? Looks like you were the one who brought the cheater into the house after all.
You cheated on me first. I was going to divorce you.
That's right. You cheated on him first. It's not our fault, Polly. You know what? That's enough. That stupid bundle of lies isn't going to help you in court. Take a look at this. I showed them both the address on the envelope containing the forged photograph of my affair alongside my husband's unfinished New Year's card. The messy handwriting was an exact match. At first, I didn't suspect the handwriting, but looking at it like this, anyone could tell it was written by the same hand.
I don't see how that's proof.
I'll submit it for handwriting analysis, and then I'll file a damage report for defamation. Once I told him this, Caleb suddenly lunged at me and ripped the envelope out of my hand. He then proceeded to tear it into hundreds of strips and throw it away.
Oh, that's too bad. Looks like there's no more evidence.
Indeed, except this is a case where less is definitely more. Not that you would understand that.
Huh?
I pulled out a voice recorder. Caleb, with a twisted expression on his face, immediately lunged at me once more and tried to snatch the voice recorder from me.
Give it to me!
Hell no! You frickin' bitch. I'm gonna destroy all the evidence you have. I was outnumbered 2-1, but I had actually called for help, and the reinforcements came running in from the next room, yelling at both of the traitors.
That's enough! Both of you! You're embarrassing yourselves! Uncle?
Who the frick is that? This old gas bag?
Uncle, no, this is not...
Caleb crouched there like a drunken, depressed man. My reinforcement was one Mr. Dan Aaron, the younger brother of Mr. Ethan Aaron, the president of Aaron Manufacturing and the father of Caleb. And Dan is the managing director of the company. He was also Caleb's boss. In this manner, I was able to dispel any suspicions upon me of being adulterous and found proof of my husband's infidelity. After that, my husband and I were divorced. And in addition to alimony, I had him pay me compensation for defamation. Roiba had been eyeing him ever since she knew I was married to him and went on to seduce him for some time. Caleb took advantage of this and came up with the fake photograph in order to get a divorce, getting a bunch of alimony and another girl in the process. The result was that I filed for alimony against her as well. She tried to get her sweetheart to pay her share of the alimony too, but he was dismissed for misconduct and became unemployed. Roiba was also dismissed after it was discovered that she was the one who had been having the affair. Her problematic attitude at work was also called into question. They both lost their jobs, blamed each other, and had a falling out, which led to them separating. As for me, I'm still working hard at a comfortable job without a junior employee who made it her job to make my life miserable. I've had enough of marriage, but I'm still determined to live my life positively, thinking of my failed relationship with Caleb as one of a plethora of valuable life experiences.